Okay, we're back for another podcast. I know it's been a really long time.
It has. And we've got a new setup today.
Yeah. I want to know if any of you like this setup or if you like the old setup better. We just thought for this kind of podcast that we're doing today, it required a bit more of a in-close setting where we're going to be digging into a topic that is kind of scary, maybe.
For us, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those
us.
topics where you're like, ooh, it kind of makes you cringe a little bit. And that topic is, will realtors exist in 10 years from now or 20 years from now, whatever it may be? That's a big question on people's minds. And we thought, hey, let's not dive around the question. Let's dig right into it and talk about it, right?
Yeah, obviously an important question for us as we are realtors. But definitely now that you can do so many things online, you can book your travel, you can book everything online. Are we still going to need realtors? With all of the AI, all of the things that you can do, are we still going to need realtors in even 10 years? Things are moving so fast that I think 10 years is even a reasonable question to ask.
Yeah, and it is something that is becoming, there are more jobs that are getting phased out because of technology and people are able to do things themselves. And so what we want to do is look at the case for each side, right? And we're a little bit biased. I mean, this is what we do. We think that we provide an important role for people, but whenever you're looking at something like this, you also have to look at the other side of things too. So let's look at that side first. So the case against realtors. There are more tools, and some of them are located in the US, but in today's market, you are able to access some data that buyers would be able to look at. Like, for example, especially in the US, Zillow is kind of the biggest tool that people use for looking at houses, I believe. And so we actually have a little bit of experience with Zillow recently because we were keeping an eye on a property that was located in the US that was up for sale. And what I thought was kind of interesting is I knew nothing about the market that this house was in, or even the US market as a whole. But it gives you graphs. It gives you a zestimate or whatever they call it. I don't know. A Zillow estimate about what it thinks the property is worth.
Exactly.
Based on trends. And I was like, holy crap. Like, that's a pretty cool tool for people to be able to access. But, as we know, there are so many different factors that where my mind goes, like, okay, well, what's the area like? Are there schools nearby, etc.? But online tools like that people now have access to are making buyers and sellers more educated.
Exactly. And really, there are currently people who are selling their home on their own for sale by owner. So we know that people can do that. And now with AI, as you say, a lot of these tools are in the US, but they will quickly come to Canada. And so with all of these tools, it becomes easier and easier with AI to sell your home by yourself.
And there are like do-it-yourself listing services as well that we're aware of in the Chatham market or Ontario, Canada as a whole, that allow people to list their home on the MLS without a realtor. And it's for maybe a flat fee or some sort of discounted fee that realtors usually charge. And so that's another thing that's maybe pushing people towards, will realtors exist? Because, there are commissions that are payable when people sell properties with realtors. And so the big question that people have is, well, are realtors earning that paycheck? And for some people, they feel that they're not.
Yeah, and I think there are consumers are requiring much more transparency
Yeah.
about realtors, and actually our real estate, in Ontario, and definitely in Canada, things have become more transparent about who's being paid, what they're being paid, that type of thing. So, I mean, I think that's a good thing. But there are definitely people who think that realtors don't earn what they make. Now, there's also a lot of confusion about what actually realtors make.
That's right. Yeah. What you see, if you were to look up the average salary of a realtor on Google, it comes up with like an Indeed number that is well into the six figures, which is very much a farce, because that average is significantly skewed. As in any sort of sales arenas, there are top producers who make a lot of money, but there are many that do not make very much money. Many more that do not make much money, but those top producers really pull up that average.
Right.
Whereas many people, much more than, I would say, you're looking at probably 3/4 of the people are really not at that range. So, but I mean, if we look at the case against realtors, there are some valid points. And because there are so many realtors, especially in Ontario, you're bound to find some bad apples, people who are lazy, people who don't do their job well, people who don't communicate. But on the flip side of things, you do see realtors who go the extra mile, who will earn every cent that they charge. And we like to think that we are in that group, and we hope that our clients would say the same thing about us. But there are some, like in specific marketplaces, there are times when I find that realtors really are needed. And I think right now is one of them.
Yeah, you're right. And so we're making the case for, is AI going to replace realtors? Really, that's what we're talking about, right? And there are many ways in which AI will allow people to sell their own homes, to do all the things that maybe realtors do. But there are, as we're talking about right now, there are markets, we think any purchase or sale of a home, or purchase, or if you are listing your home, that a realtor is incredibly important. So let's talk about the things that AI, or that an individual who wants to sell their home on their own, let's talk about the things that they can't do or they don't have access to.
Yeah, and I would say the number one thing is, so I would call it the nitty gritty of a transaction. What happens when a deal goes sideways? And I'm telling you right now, that is happening so much more right now than ever before in my career. But I've heard that from other people from all ranges of how much business, people do. And so when there are problem solving or problems that need to be solved in a transaction, like on closing, something's not working properly, there needs to be some sort of abatement of a purchase price to deal with this, or who's going to fix this. AI and sellers and buyers themselves a lot of times cannot do that. What realtors do is they step in as a objective third party who it is our job to protect the interest of our clients. And so when you're doing that, you're also posing solutions so that your client can see things through.
Well, and any deal has a lot of complicated aspects to it. This is not, sometimes people think, well, I can sell my house myself, but they don't understand the contract. The contract is there are so many little things in a contract that can cause issues. And a realtor who has the knowledge and the experience knows what those things are. If you are trying to do this on your own, there is no way that you can, even with AI's assistance, I don't think there's any way that an individual with no knowledge of the real estate market can actually write a contract, follow through on it without some kind of outside advice. You would have to get a lawyer involved. So there are lots of things like that. And then you look at even if you are listing your home, now as the seller, you now are responsible for all of the showings on your house. So everything now goes through you, and you are the one in charge of all that. So you're dealing with, let's say realtors were totally out of the picture. Now you're dealing with individuals calling you to say, I want to see your house. You have no idea who these people are. They're not vetted at all. You don't know if they can even afford to buy your house. All of those, the realtor, when you hire a realtor, all of those things are done for you. All of the vetting, we as realtors vet our buyers also. So we're bringing people to you, to a home for sale that are already vetted. So there are so many things that we as realtors do that I don't think AI could ever do that.
Yeah. And who wants to be at work getting a phone call from some guy who probably has no business buying your house and wants to go through it? He doesn't have insurance. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing, right? So, you hear people ask all the time, like if you're hiring a contractor or whatever, like, do you have liability insurance, stuff like that? So realtors carry a specific designation, part of a governing body, and have insurance. And so we're acting as gatekeepers and advisors for you to make the transaction much easier for you. And I've heard it from people who have represented themselves that they just thought, I can't do this anymore. Like I have too many things on my plate, and I'm dealing with people that I really don't want to be dealing with. So if we were to look at kind of the, if realtors are to exist in 10 years, which personally, I think they will. If they are to exist in 10 years, what's that going to look like? Because that's kind of the big question, right? If you're on the camp of, well, they're not going to exist because I believe that AI is going to take over, or there's going to be tools that allow people to do this job themselves, that's fine, if you have that opinion. But if you think that realtors are going to exist, then like any industry, we have to adapt to what's going on. So one thing I think that is important is that realtors develop a niche, a specialization that goes further than even what AI could provide. For example, you do a lot of downsizing work. Mm-hmm. You've been through it. You're not a computer.
Right.
You understand that there's a ton of emotion, and that it's very much a mental process as well as physical, but a mental process. And those are things that even as AI gets more involved, that kind of experience and guidance cannot be replaced by a computer. That human connection and understanding, empathy goes far beyond what a computer can do.
Yeah, I mean, a computer is never going to be able to help you determine if it's the right home for you. So much of what we do is actually more advice, more personal, looking at the personal aspects of, does this suit you? Does this make sense? This purchase makes sense for you at this time in your life. Those are things AI can't replace. I mean, the other thing that we work with a lot of investors, and AI can certainly
Give you a whole like 10-year plan on an investment property, like all the numbers.
But it can't replace the experience that Dane and I have with our personal experience, with actually looking at the house and determining, is this the right house for an investment?
Or being invested personally in that area. I've had that so many times, right? And you likely as well, that someone's looking at a specific area that has a lot of investment properties and saying, yeah, I own a duplex 10 doors down.
Yeah.
Here's my experience. Here's the tenant profile. And here's, 3 things that I learned as part of that. Again, a computer just can't do that. It doesn't have that experience. It can tell you all of the income levels of a certain neighborhood or what schools are involved, and that can help you in your decision. But I think ultimately you need an advocate, a guide, somebody who is a professional, just like you would need a lawyer for a transaction. You just can't. That human connection, I think, is so important.
Well, it is. And so much, as I say, the work that we do is the questions that we get asked, the information that we provide. It's very personalized. And sometimes we have to, talk people down, like people who are anxious about something, so those are the kind of things that can't be replaced. And I think that is one of the really important things about the realtors who will exist in 10 years, because I don't think there's going to be as many of us as there are now.
No, I hope not, because right now that's not to say that we have less competition or anything like that, but it's just, there are too many. It's an oversaturated market, and the people who actually adapt, do a good job, add that human element into what they do, will be the ones who survive. And that really begs the question, is like, in the 2035, I guess that's 10 years from now, what will the 2035 realtor look like? What do you think?
Well, I think they will assume more of an advisor role, an advocate. They will, because they will be providing, there will be so much available for, I think that buyers and sellers will be even more educated than they are now before they even come to us, because of all of the tools that will be available to them. So I think they'll be coming more looking for an advisor, looking for somebody with experience, somebody who is a great communicator. Those are the things that are going to really matter, I think, to people who are buying and selling in 10 years. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think I agree with much of what you think too. Proving your value is going to be even more important in 10 years than it is now, because of what you said, because there are so many items of value to buyers that are free. Yeah. AI, guides online, or big websites that provide lots of data. A realtor in 10 years has to be able to specifically differentiate themselves from that. Yeah. Say, here is why I am worth this, and because I am this much better than all of these tools. And what better way for you to do that than to have previous clients be, referring you for your business and saying, hey, this kind of experience that, say, Dane and Kellyanne provide, it guidance, is invaluable, and I couldn't have done that with, a computer or trying to do it on my own. And some people just don't want to. They just don't. Like, I've talked to some people who, yeah, they feel like they could do things themselves, and I'm sure lots of them can. And
But it's just like, you know what? I could go on YouTube and try and figure out how to fix my sink that's clogged and take all the time, go out and buy the tools, take all the time to do it. But I don't do that. I hire a professional.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we are.
And it's that exchange of time for money, right?
You're right.
And so, sometimes we hear, like, if we were to sell a house in 2 days for a great price in a tough market, someone might say, well, why should I pay you X commission when it only took you 2 days to get this, house on the market and to sell it? Well, you think of the end result. Would you rather pay an electrician who is an absolute stud when it comes to rewiring houses, and he rewires your house twice as fast as anybody else, and he is the absolute best, but it took him half the time? Would you still be willing to pay him a premium? I know I would, because I got the best. Mm-hmm. And just because it took him less time doesn't mean he's worth less. So we're interested to hear what your feedback is. And then we're hoping that we get some comments on this video, because it is a controversial topic. Mm-hmm. And that's why we wanted to deep dive into it, because we're not afraid to talk about it. We think that we will still be around in 10 years, but we will look different. Mm-hmm. And I know that as the Appleton team, we're looking forward to that challenge, and that we're going to be doing that and looking for feedback from others as to how to do that. Right.
And I think, the one thing that we have always done is that, which will serve us well, is that we continue to educate ourselves on different niches in different areas. We stay current with everything that's happening, and we really value personal relationships and the relationships with our clients. And we're strong negotiators. That's the other thing that we talked about at the beginning, but we didn't really talk about how important that will be, because AI cannot negotiate for you. And there is so much the negotiation, and the fact that there could be, which we're seeing lots of, could be issues that come up where a deal cannot close without 2 or 3 people having conversations. Mm-hmm. Dane, I know you've been doing this lately, having many conversations about how to problem solve. Those are the things that we do really well. So I feel really confident that we will be around in 10 years, because we are doing the things that make a realtor very valuable to a client.
Love it. So what do you think? What's the 2035 realtor going to look like? And post the comments below. Let us know if you think that realtors will be around, in 2035, or why you think maybe they won't be. But if they will be, we really hope that in 10 years, you'll pick the Appleton team as your realtors. So hope you've enjoyed this format, this topic, and we'll catch you on the next one.